Okay, so this is going to be lesson 20, beginning for the factoring part, homework 7.1. And we're just finding the greatest common factor between some terms. So a lot of times you'll see that abbreviated as GCF. So traditionally, we would have gone through some examples of division first. And dividing several terms by, well, another term that would kind of divide evenly with everything. Okay? What I mean by that is if we had something that looks like this. Okay? So traditionally, we would start with something like this example. Looks big, but it's not. We have to take each of these terms and divide it or reduce it by what's ever here, okay, in the bottom. So we take big number divided by that big number. And then again, just to remind ourselves, when we are dividing, same bases, we subtract the exponents. So here, I'm going to look at this individually with each thing. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. Right? If I have 4 x's up on top, and here I have an x on the bottom, then I'm going to take 1 x away from this x to the 4th. So leaving me with x to the 3rd. Here I have y to the 3rd, and I have 2 y's down here. And so I'm taking 2 y's away or reducing it in that manner. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Here I have a 10 divided by 5. So 10 divided by 5 divides evenly. It says 2. I have x squared, and I'm taking 1 x away. So that leaves me with a single x. And here I have y squared on top and y squared on bottom. So 2 minus 2 is 0, right? So we don't write y to the power of 0 because, again, anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So this basically just cancels out. And here I have 20 divided by 5. It gets us 4. This x, there's a single x here, a single x there, that cancels out. Y squared here, a y squared there, again, those cancel out. So this, writing it a little bit nicer, will be the result of dividing everything by what happens to be the greatest common factor. So once you take that out, you should have nothing left over that is in common with every term. Yeah, this has x's, right? Here's 3 of them, here's 1 of them, but this doesn't have an x. This has a y, but these two don't. These two have big numbers that are divisible by 2. Oops, sorry. This one does not. So there's nothing left in common after we take out the greatest common factor. Problem, though, tends to be of finding that thing, because they don't tell you it now. They just want you to find it and identify it. So when we're finding the greatest common factor, basically you're going to ask yourself, what's the most I can take out of these 2 or 3 terms that they share in common? What can I divide these numbers by, the biggest that they can? So let's take this example here. If we have 45a squared b to the 3rd and 18a 4th b, and we're finding the GCF. Okay. The homework and other times I've seen this too, they go through what's called prime factorization of all these numbers. To me, that just seems like a lot. So what we want to do is think about the big numbers first, okay? And you think, what can I divide both 45 and 18 by? So first off, especially if you have really big numbers, you want to say, well, can I divide this big number by this value? So can we evenly divide 45 by 18? No. And if you're not sure, that's fine. That's when you whip out that handy dandy calculator and you see. So can I divide 45 by 18? Yeah, I mean, I get 2.5, but I don't get a whole number, right? So if you can't get a whole number out of it, then that's not going to be the greatest common factor. So I'm going to have to think of something that's lower than 18, right? So how do I get 18? Well, I know I have factors of 1 and 18. Well, that doesn't work. 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. So this is where knowing your multiplication tables is going to help you. You have to know what factors, these are factors, make our numbers. And sometimes it's a guess and check thing, right? So I tried 18. Well, that didn't work, right? So what's my next biggest number between all these? 9. So I know I can divide 18 by 9 evenly. Can I divide 45 by 9 evenly? And if you're not sure, when in doubt, whip out the calculator. So can I divide 45 by 9 evenly? Yes, I get a whole number. So if you go through the factors of the smaller number first, attempting maybe to use that biggest number, then that helps kind of, not take up so much time. So the next biggest number in these set of factors that are in common between 18 and 45 is 9. So I can divide 45 and 18 by 9. So I got that. And now I'm going to look at the letters. Okay? Here I have a squared. So again, that means a times a times those 3 b's. Here I have a to the 4th b. So a times a times a times a times b. Okay. Again, I can only take what each term has something to give. So these both have b's and these both have a's. So that's going to be part of the common factor. How many is the question? So here we see that this only has one b to give. Okay, that shares this one b in common. That's it. So there's no other b to match up here. Now when we look at their a's, well, this has 2 a's, this has 4 a's. This only has 2 a's to give. Right here, that's in common with this. So thinking about exponents for variables for a common factor is the terms have to have the same letters, right, in order for it to be a common factor. And you can only take out basically the minimum, the lowest that they have. This has a squared, this has a to the 4th. Yeah, 8 is great, or 4 is greater, but this one doesn't have 4 a's to give, okay? It only has 2. So this term shares 2 a's in common with that term. So greatest common factor wise be a 9, an a squared, and that single b. Okay? That's the greatest common factor. And I saw this one pop up. This is why and said, you want to try and see if your lowest number, your lower coefficient, is actually something you can divide evenly by both of these terms. I don't know why I made that so gigantic. Okay. Because 108 and 216, those are bigger numbers that we tend to, that we usually deal with. So rather than going through all these factors of getting 108, I'm going to say, well, can I divide 216 by 108 evenly? I don't know. Let's find out. Wow, we can. So 108, I can divide by 108. I can divide 216 by 108. So that means, number-wise, the greatest common factor is 108. And then they both share D's, okay? This has 2 D's. This only has 1 D. They only share 1 in common. So our greatest common factor would be 108D. Okay, and let's do one more. Again, we have bigger numbers, right? Up here, we saw that 108 goes into 216 2 times. So if we tried it here, odds are it ain't gonna work because this is in 216, it's 207, right? So again, you can always check what's gonna happen if we take 207 divided by 108. Yeah, we don't get a nice whole number. So that means I will have to break down 108 and 207 to find the number, the biggest number that they share in common as a factor. So you want to think big, right? You don't want to like start super small. If we look at 108, and then we're going to look at those factors. And if you don't know, that's why we just take a calculator out and start dividing and see what happens, right? 108 is an even number because it ends in 8. So we're going to say, well, what's 108 divided by 2? 2 is not big, but 54 is, right? Okay. So can I want to backtrack? Here's 207. It ends in an odd number. 7 is odd. So I can't divide it by 2, but can I divide 207 by 54? Well, I don't know, so I'm going to find out. Oof, no, I can't. All right, that's okay. So that just means that 54 is not a factor for that's in common between these two. So I'm going to go and try again. Okay. So here we have 108. I'm going to see, can I divide this by 3? I can. I get 36. Cool. All right, so 3 times 36 gets me 108. And I divide 207 by 36. I don't know. I'm going to find out. Ooh, close, but nope, not even, right? Okay, so we can try the next number, 108 divided by 4, 27. So can we divide 207 by 27? Maybe. Darn, no. All right. Now, I could try 5, but the rule of division, right, is something's divisible by 5 if the last number ends in 5 or 0. So this doesn't. So, no point in checking 5. So 3 worked. What's a little bit bigger than 3? 6, right? That's getting up there, so we can try 6. 108 divided by 6. Look at that, we got 18. Okay, can I divide 207 by 18? I don't know, let's find out. Oh no, darn. Okay, but I feel like we're getting close, and we are, trust me. 7 is a tricky number. It's just so, I don't know, weird. So I have no idea if we can divide by 7. Let's find out. Nope. We can try the next 8. Nope. And then we can try if it's divisible by 3, was divisible by 6, 3, 6, 9. So we're going to divide 108 divided by 9. We get 12. Cool. Okay. So can I divide 207 by 12? I don't think so. Nope. So I've tried these big numbers, right? Tried that, tried that, tried that, tried that, tried that. So now I'm going to start going this way. Can I divide 207 by 9? Whew, finally, right? We got a number. We got a factor. We got 9 and 23. 108 is 9 and 12. So that's a long process to show you, like, basically the way to look at that, but it gets easier, and the more familiar you are with just playing around with numbers, the easier it gets. So have no fear. It usually doesn't take that long. So here we see we have a 9 and a 9 in common, right? And so we know number-wise, that's going to be the greatest common factor. And when we look here, we have x to the 5th, y to the 3rd, and a z. Here we have x squared y, no z. So for the xyz part, like, what can I take, what can I divide evenly out from each of these terms? So what does how many x's does this share in common with this? Well, this only has 2. So I can only factor or reduce out x squared, or take 2 away from each one evenly. Okay? This doesn't have 3 x's to give, or 4, or 5. When we look at our y's, this has 3 y's, but this only has 1. So this term only has 1 y to give. So we only have 1 y in our greatest common factor. And this has a z, but this does not. So it's not in common. So z has no place in our GCF. That's what that would be. So after this, after we find the GCF, then the next lesson is actually factoring that out. Okay, so good job hanging in there.